The number in the title is $372,902. That is the result people notice. The part they usually miss is everything that had to happen before that number became possible. I did not get there by throwing a few names into a giant parlay and hoping one night changed my life. The result came from turning sports betting into a repeatable research process, then using AI to process the amount of information that gets overwhelming when one person tries to do it alone. That distinction matters, because most people use AI backwards. They ask for a pick, see a confident answer, and rush toward the bet slip. I used it as an analytical engine. The question was never simply, who is going to win? The question was, what is happening around this number? What could change it? And is there still enough value left for the decision to make sense? Before I even considered a wager, I built the board. I looked at the sport, the matchup, the expected pace, the player's role, current usage, injuries, lineup news, travel, and the price being offered. A projection without context is just a number wearing a lab coat. The context is where the decision becomes real, and this is where parlai became part of my workflow. Parlay gives me a way to bring live statistics, injury information, lineup and rotation news, matchup details, and multiple AI perspectives into the same conversation. I can use one model when I want a focused read, or a full panel when I want the decision challenged from several angles. You can see the workflow at parlai.cc. The difference is not that the tool hands me a guaranteed answer. The advantage is the analytical reach. It can compare more context, keep the assumptions visible, and force the first idea to survive questions that are easy to skip when the slate is moving quickly. It can also reflect on losses, which means the process does not have to forget every mistake as soon as the next game starts. That feedback loop changed how I looked at the number. If a player went over, I did not automatically call the pick brilliant. I asked what actually created the result. Was the roll stable? Did the minutes match the expectation? Did the matchup create the opportunity? Was the number available when the decision was made? Or did the price move before the entry? The same questions apply to losses. Sometimes a loss was simply variance inside a good decision. Other times, it exposed a bad assumption that I had dressed up as confidence. The game script was wrong. The player's role was less secure than I thought. A recent trend had been built on a tiny sample. The public story was obvious, and the price had already absorbed it. AI helped me separate those situations instead of putting every result in the same mental bucket. That is one of the reasons its analytical ability is so powerful for sports betting. It can hold the full case in view while I focus on the decision in front of me. The second major shift was learning to respect price. I used to spend most of my energy deciding whether I liked the outcome. Eventually, I realized that liking the outcome is only half of the bet. The other half is what the market is charging me for the chance to be right. Imagine the same player prop opening at a reasonable number and then moving after injury news, lineup confirmation, or a wave of public action. The player did not become a different player in 5 minutes. The price changed. If the entire advantage was available at the opening number, taking the same idea later may mean taking a completely different bet. That is why I started recording more than wins and losses. I logged the number, the price, the time, the information available, the reason for the play, and what happened afterward. The log gave every decision a timestamp. It made it much harder to pretend that a pick was good just because it eventually won, or that a pick was bad just because the result went against it. The record also showed me where my instincts were expensive. I overvalued familiar names. I gave too much weight to one spectacular performance. I confused a higher payout with a better opportunity. I let a crowded narrative make me feel late, then forced a worse entry because I did not want to miss the move. Those are not problems that disappear because you have access to more information. In some ways, more information makes them worse. You can always find one more statistic that supports the story you already want to believe. The point of AI was to make the process more demanding, not merely more persuasive. When I use parlay, I want the live context to argue with my first instinct. Bring in the current numbers, check the injury report, look at the roll and matchup, ask what would invalidate the read, then compare that answer with the price that is actually available. The models can disagree, and that disagreement is useful because it tells me which assumption needs more work. Sometimes I want one model to go deep on a single player. Other times, I want the full panel to examine the same slate and show me where the consensus is strong, where it is fragile, and where everyone may be repeating the same public narrative. The objective is not to create 5 versions of the same opinion. It is to make the reasoning easier to inspect. That is also why a loss becomes useful. Parlay can help me revisit the inputs and ask what the process missed. Was there a rotation change? Did the game environment break the original projection? Did the line move for a reason that I ignored? Did the pick fail because the idea was wrong, or because the entry was too late? The answer changes what I do next. A loss that teaches me nothing is just a loss. A loss that improves the next decision becomes part of the system. The biggest numbers came from repeating that loop. Research the board. Identify the assumptions. Use AI to pressure test the idea. Check the number and the price. Decide whether the situation deserves an entry. Then study the result honestly enough to let it change the next version of the process. There were plenty of slates where the best decision was to do less. A full schedule can make every game feel like an opportunity, but activity is not the same thing as advantage. Sometimes the matchup was unclear. Sometimes the player role was still moving. Sometimes the models disagreed because the underlying information was genuinely uncertain. Those were not failures of the system. They were reasons to wait. That matters when the goal is to grow a bankroll instead of collecting exciting screenshots. The money has to survive the decisions that are merely interesting. I treated the bankroll as a resource that needed protection, not as entertainment that had to be used every night. That gave the research time to work instead of turning one bad slate into a referendum on the whole idea. The number in the title is impressive, but it is not the part I want people to copy blindly. What is worth copying is the structure behind it. Use AI for its insane ability to compare context and patterns. Give it live information instead of stale assumptions. Let it challenge the narrative. Track what you believed before the result arrived. Then use the result to make the next decision sharper. That is how I made $372,902 using AI sports betting. Not by finding one magic prompt, but by building a process that could see more, remember more, and question more before money was on the line. If you want to see how I use AI to evaluate sports betting situations with live context, current stats, matchup information, and feedback from previous results, check out parlai at parlai.cc. And remember that no model, system, or past result guarantees a future outcome.